Kia ora, my name's Matt, and these are ribs for the wing roots of my Sopwith Camel, 1917 Sopwith Camel. I'm in the process of making these, sorting out problems as I go. These ones are complete, but you'll notice a little clamp at the end. Next stage is going to be steam forming this curve. But pretty happy with this. These are pretty substantial ribs, and really happy to be getting these on the go. I've got about 20 odd of these to make up for various parts of the plane. So follow along, hope you enjoy. Cheers. So I've got here 5 sticks which have potential for wide capping strips similar to these ones. So that's what they're going to end up as, and what I've been looking out for is for close grain, and I can show you an example of different grain types. Zoom in a little bit so you can see it. So down the bottom here, that's quite wide grain. It's still within 1 to 6 6 grains per inch, but it's too wide in my opinion for cap strips, and the closer the grain is, the higher the density, the greater the strength. So this is the part I want for my cap strips. So for this particular piece of timber, I'm going to be cutting that off, and I'll save that for something else. And if I come around to the front, sorry, it's got to crouch down a bit. It's a bit hard to tell. You can see the wide grain here, and up the top here you've got the very narrow grain. Obviously it grew really slow here, really fast down here. I'm going to be cutting it at an angle across there and harvesting what I can from, sorry, I'm trying to look at my camera and my fingers at the same time, harvest what I can out of this section up here. So I might be able to get 2 across and maybe another one up the top there or something. So there's a bit of finicky work involved in the sawing of this stuff. This guy here should be a bit more straightforward, but I'll try and flatten that grain out a little bit before I cut it, before I actually make the strips. This one here should be relatively straightforward, and this one's on quite an angle, but again I can flatten that out. It just means wasted wood in the bottom here, but with that wasted wood I can probably get a couple more cap strips, and I need more cap strips because I've run out and I still have, stand up, thank you. These are the next ones for the 3/8 inch cap strips. So I've got a wee stack here. I've got to drill a hole through there, which I've got picked up a correct size force bit for that. So I'll knock that out tonight probably. It's fairly quiet work as opposed to the table saw. So in assessing this piece of timber for cap strips, the first thing I want to get is a sense of is the dimension and where the major flaws are. Flaws are typically easy to spot. Here, rather large knot on one side, and a knot rather centered, and a spike knot here, which has influenced the side here. In addition, this one's also got an old borer hole, so it goes in the bottom, comes out the top. It's an old one because I've previously marked it with a piece of with some felt, just so I don't confuse it with something else, like a new borer. So those are the major flaws, and what I'll next do is I'll run a tape measure, and what I'm looking for is 1550 mils, which takes me to about there. So that encompasses that knot and all the way to the end. If I also take it further, oops, I'll move that. Because that far end, balancing the tape here, that far end includes a little bit of wavy grain. So if I bring it up to here, that's now sitting just shy of the end, that's about where it goes, and that will eliminate all the wavy grain. But to get that means cutting through this here. So I've got 2 options. I can either cut it off, say, shy of that, to make sure this side is clear of that particular knot, and I'm only dealing with this knot. Or I can run the saw straight through that and just see what it looks like underneath. It's likely to look wavy, but having said that, there the grain looks pretty straight, and if I turn it this way, there the grain looks straight. So it's hard to know what's going on in the middle, but it might be relatively straight in the middle as well. Got to mention, part of the assessment of course is where the grain is on the ends. So where I'm cutting on this side, that's relatively horizontal. I'm happy with that. From there onwards, this side more curved, but from there that way really horizontal, and you can see where I'm cutting. Alright, second piece of timber. I'm just looking at the grain on this one. On the end here it's quite flat, so that's good. And up here, that's looking pretty tidy as well. Quite happy with the grain density on that. Moving down further though, and we end up getting, sorry, just trying to see this on the video camera. We get a bit of a whoopsie going on here, and that's quite wide. Within an inch there's easily 6 grains, but that's all the strength is in the dark. There's proper words for these things, but it's all in the dark grain there. That's where the strength is, and this bit in the middle is the softer spongy stuff. And when you talk about grains per inch, really you're talking about a proxy for wood density, and it's the wood density you're looking for. So if you can imagine a capping strip going through that part there, there's no density in that. There's no strength in that. So that's, I wouldn't like that. I'd be happy to do that if I was looking to capture the top part and the bottom part and just throw away the middle one. That would be okay. But if we could follow that grain line down a bit, and we get to this section where you've got 3 grains the same width, all problematic. I'll just grab the ruler. Oh, you probably count those. So within an inch either way, top or bottom, you've easily got 6 grains per inch. But in that first half an inch on the ruler, you've got like 3 grains. You barely make 6 grains per inch. Barely make it. And that's not ideal. So I'm going to put this back in the stack, having pulled it out last night, and use this for something else, and probably avoiding this particular segment here. Right, go grab the next one out of the stack. Right, this one's looking good on one side, not so good on the other. So grain direction is horizontal, so that's great, it's fantastic, and you can see it's looking pretty good, nice and tidy at the top, apart from this little stuff going on here, which is caused by that. So this is the untidy side, and you can also see on the bottom here that grain width is quite loose, but the stuff at the top is quite tight. Give or take that one and running through the centre. On the other side, bring it over, this is all looking nice and tight, apart from that one, and we can forgive that one. Right, these I'm about to start planing down. These are 1/4 inch cap strips. That one actually sits that way, it's a bit narrower than the rest. So they need to be planed down to 1 1/4 inches across that dimension. We should go through the jointer first and the planer next. So I'll do this with both these stacks. This stack here is all of a suitable size for capping strips. So that'll probably see the last of the capping strips I need. The 3/8 inch wide ones. Those and these 2 planks down here. So should be good for those. In total I need, these ones are prepared earlier. So that's 1 1/4 inches wide and 1/8 of an inch thick. And I need 64 of those. So there's about 7 there I think. So I need a few more. So I'll chop through these, see how these go, and crack on. So I'll be making more full cap strips, for making more full spars, for ribs rather, which I'll show you over here. I've got about 5 done. I need 12 in total, another 7 to do, and these are the ones with the small hole in the middle. So these go into the centre section above the fuselage, and those holes there are for a tube which you run your aileron wires through. And it's basically intended to make sure once you cover everything, have no access to that, you've still got a way of threading aileron wires through if they come out for any reason. So they're on the go. Shortly I'll be moving on to making more of these half ribs. So these ones finish just where the ailerons start on the rear spar. So I need to make a few more of those, so I'll be getting onto those shortly. And then the remainder of these, in particular panned out here, these are rib shapes in 5mm ply, and these are the ones used for end pieces, for example the wing roots. And over here, panning around again, sorry about all the panning. This is a stack of cap strips for those end ribs. So as you can see, I've got a fair bit there. I need more, but I've got a fair bit there, and a few more in this stack. They're the original ones I created. This is for two end ribs on the center section. So they need to be opposite each other. So these are the bottom ribs. So they are opposite. Up here's the nose. Nose to there. But what I'm looking at now is where the screws go. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see the screws sitting on that routed out piece. There's not a lot of space on either side of the screw. And I've measured it, and it's 1/64 of an inch on either side of that head, which doesn't give me a lot of scope for error when I'm countersinking the holes. And I'm not sure I like that. Of course, this is going into 5mm ply rather than 4mm. So I'm picking, I can move it to the center, move it to this one to the right by a mil, which will give me another mil excess on this side, which makes it feel a bit more comfortable. But it's little things like this which just suddenly strike you out of the blue. Think, oh shit, I don't like that. I'm glad I thought about it before I started drilling holes. But anyway, just thought I'd capture that while I've got the moment. I'll crack on. In the meantime, these are looking pretty good. This is some of my 5mm ply. This sits nicely on into that groove and sits flush with the end of with that grooving, with that cap strip. So I'm liking this so far. So, right, I'll crack on and scratch my head a little bit. A little bit cooler today. So just moving on from that question around where to put screw holes, what I've done is I've marked 2mm inside that lip. And that's where I'm going to put the screw holes, which in theory could be about 3mm on the other side. It means the screw will be a little bit off center from the ply. But I'm picking, this is one of the reasons why the ply is so thick anyway. So the 2mm is still going to have plenty of meat, and about the same amount of meat on the ply as we have with the 4mm ply. So that's what I'm going with, and that should mean I can countersink the reverse side of this without it breaking the edge. Fingers crossed. I don't know if I'm that accurate, but hey, give it a go. There you go, quality control.
You've got a sandpaper on a couple of the edges.
Well, don't pick it up.
Oh, sorry. Well, there's two, that one and that one. And this one could do with a little bit more digging out as well.
Yeah. Oh. Right, at this point I've got to figure out how to drill a hole through that so it's parallel to the sides. And I think I'm going to go with the option I used for the 4mm ply. I just need to make another template, not template, another widget in order to enable me to do that. So out comes the table saw. The old camera battery ran flat yesterday, so there's a quick catch up on what I managed to achieve in the end, which is 2 rather nice end caps for wings. So these 2 will fit on either side of the centre section above the fuselage, and the wing basically bolts up to this side and that side with a whole bunch of stuff in the middle, of course. So that's what I managed to get up to, and the second one was a lot faster to make than the first, which is great. My concern now though is this bend radius, and you can see I put a clamp on the end there just to keep those 2 from warping and tearing out the screws. Obviously there's a lot more pressure with the wider timber than there was with thinner cap strips. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to make up a block to steam form these into better curves. So this is what I'm starting on now. Hope you enjoyed that. That's my steam form, and that's a piece of pipe I stole from somewhere else, which I'll be using to make the steamer. So I'll catch up with you guys next week and see how I got on. Cheers.